How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be bringing you a simple headlight restoration for our F-350. But first I wanted to address the comments about the F-150 that we bought as a parts truck. I agree with a lot of the comments that it's too nice of a machine to just be a parts donor. So we wanted to figure out a solution that's going to be good for both vehicles. This F-350 was donated to us so that it could be auctioned for a charity, so that's happening regardless. Beyond that, we're just trying to figure out the best solution to make the most out of these two vehicles. As you can probably tell, it's not the nicest day here in Colorado, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this truck inside so that I can do it in our old studio. I've gone ahead and folded in the mirrors so that this behemoth will fit into our old studio. And something cool that a lot of people might not know about diesel trucks that are manual is that you actually don't have to use the throttle to set off. They have so much torque, you just let out the clutch and it starts to go, no problem. So, let's see if we can't get this thing in the studio. It's been in here before, so it shouldn't be a problem. Wow. That's the antenna. But, not too bad. We're in. And it smells like there might be an exhaust leak because I can smell fumes pretty bad in the cab, even with the window up. And it definitely sounds like there's an exhaust leak when you get on the throttle, so that'll be something that we'll have to address. I bought the 3M Headlight Restoration Kit because I've heard good things about these, and this is the type that uses a power drill. That's going to make this job quicker and a lot easier than having to sand it by hand. It's also going to be able to cut through more layers of what's on here, making these headlights yellowish. You can probably tell that these headlights aren't all that bad, but these kits aren't that expensive, and it's definitely going to help. It's going to make it look better, so we might as well. It's time to go ahead and crack into this 3M Headlight Restoration Kit. Now, what we get should be this, which we'll use to attach each one of our different grits of pads. We got our polishing wheel here, some more pads, and some polishing compound. Sadly, this 3M restoration system does not come with a product to protect the lens from clouding up again after you've cleaned it, so that's a knock against this kit. We'll have to buy a separate product if we want to protect the lens from hazing in the future. Essentially what we're going to be doing here is sanding off any imperfections on the lens, which will put scratches in the lens. So we'll then move to a less aggressive sandpaper and finally to this polishing compound. First I'm going to clean the headlight with some soapy water, and then I'm going to dry it off so that we're starting with a fairly clean surface. Even though there's not much paint worth saving on this truck, I'm going to go ahead and tape off the bodywork so that we don't put any scratches in it, just because it's a good practice. I'm ready to start sanding with my most aggressive grit. It's worth mentioning that the nicer of a drill that you have, the easier this process is going to be. Those nicer drills can turn higher RPMs, but this is going to work anyways, so I'm not worried about it. You want to make sure while you do the actual sanding itself, you make a lot of passes. You don't want to stay in one spot for too long, and you also want to make sure that you don't use too much pressure. But that's enough of me talking about this. Let's go ahead and get into it. Whoever came up with the phrase, "it's gonna get worse before it gets better," was clearly into headlight restoration, because as I mentioned before, you have to scuff the lens in order to get those imperfections out. So now that we've gotten a good even sanding on this side of the headlight, I'm going to go ahead and move to the less aggressive grit of sandpaper. I'm going to wait to do this headlight last after this one is completely done so that we can see the difference side by side. Now it's time to go ahead and move on to the less aggressive pad. This should get the majority of the big scratches out of the headlight, and then we'll be able to move on to an even less aggressive pad, and then we can finally polish. Now that I've gotten the major scratches out of that lens, you can see we're starting to get to a point where they actually look fairly similar. The scuffs in this lens are still a little bit more prominent than the clouding on that, but once I start wet sanding, that's going to change. So I've got the wet sanding pad on here, and I've got a spray bottle with some water. I'm going to dampen the headlight and the pad, and then that should get the majority of the scratches out. After that, then we can actually start polishing. I just got done with the wet sanding, and already you can tell this headlight's starting to look better than the old one. I'm excited to get to the polishing and see how this is going to turn out. If you look close, you'll see that I switched drills a couple times. These cheaper battery operated units just don't hold up to continuous use in applications like this. If you have a corded drill, definitely opt for that. Otherwise, you might spend some time waiting on batteries to charge. Overall, I would recommend this kit if you want to bring clarity back to your headlights. It's pretty easy and it works well even with headlights that are only slightly hazed like ours. I've used other products that make you sand and polish by hand, but it takes way more effort and I wasn't as happy with the final product. If you have a power drill, don't hand sand it. I'm done polishing the driver's side headlight and I'm really happy with the way it looks. They weren't that bad to start with, like I said, but it's nice to get that yellowish hue out of there, make it look just a little bit better. And I'm also going to throw in these new headlight bulbs. Alright, so I'm throwing the new bulb in this Ford. I went ahead and moved the battery strap out of the way so I can get my hand in here. There's a quarter turn on this little collar. Got the new bulb on. Just got to reinstall it and then we'll test it out. I went for a simple halogen bulb replacement because I wanted to maintain an old school factory look to the headlights when illuminated. They aren't the brightest, they're pretty much fresh replacements for what it already has, but that'll keep it looking proper. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this side and then we'll be matching. I'm done working on the headlights. It's nice to get a little bit of that yellow haze out of there. It's a little tough to see on camera, but it definitely looks better. Because of the bulbs that are in there, they probably make about the same amount of light. If you wanted to get more light from them, you could just upgrade to a bigger, fancier, more expensive bulb. But we're working on a budget, so these will do just fine. Thanks for tuning in. Go back to TFL Classics. Make sure you stay updated on this and keep up with us in the comments because we're reading all of them. And we want to make sure that what we do with this truck and our F-150 is going to be the best solution possible. So definitely let us know what you guys want to see done with those two trucks. Make sure to go back to TFL Car for more news, views, and real-world reviews.